about Blade and this PG-13 rating. Hey, Jeff, I already know. I already know. So we'll start with you. Like, what are you thinking? What's going on?
Uh,
PG-13.
yeah, it's a terrible idea. It's terrible.
In
It's like
like in Jeff format is I hated it. I just can't stand it. I think it's a bad idea. But I know you have a reason. Go ahead. Method to
it's like we see already a lot of vampire movies where everyone's just turning into pixie dust. You know, it's like imagine like when we were talking about Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is a PG-13 movie. Like you're gonna be like, what the blink blank? Can't curse, but it's like, especially because it was already done a certain way. And I think also what I don't like about it is because, not trying to sound too political, but it just feels like a societal kind of thing, like, oh, we can't show this, we can't show that, but we can show this and show that. And like for me, I feel like the way that the story has always been told, comics or whatever, and everything like that, there's certain things you shouldn't change and elements about it. Like, we get that already. We get the pixie dust and the fairy freaking little flying things and all that. Like, I don't want to see that.
We'll get
I want to
all
see
right. So
people's head get chopped off.
yeah, we're gonna get deep into it because I definitely have something to say. Just don't
So what do
forget
you
it.
think?
Go ahead. I want you to go ahead. One that I'm really curious. I want you to go ahead.
I'm okay with it.
You okay with PG-13?
Yeah,
Like,
I think one, and put this in the back of a shirt. And Kevin Feige, we believe, first of all, he hasn't been wrong, so there's no reason to doubt him. So I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And on top of that, I think that there's a track record of modern PG-13 movies being as dark as you want it to be, especially if you look at like The Dark Knight, very dark film, PG-13. And with the restrictions there is with rated R movies, I think that it's understandable from a business perspective as well. For a lot of countries now allowing rated R movies, a lot of parents wouldn't allow their kids, so that's laws venerable both ways.
and it's funny because I literally agree with both of y'all. Right? It's kind of like you used to Blade a certain way. Like when you think Blade, the modern fan, the casual fan, we only know him from the movies. Wesley Snipes Blade, right? Like the blood, the vampire, the cursing, like all that stuff that goes along with being a murderous, hero. It's the same thing with, I guess, with Morbius, right? Like it's a vampire. He's a vampire itself, and I don't know what Morbius rating is gonna be, but I would imagine you have to kind of have that same type of blood and goriness that kind of goes along with like the vampire stories. What's Daybreak? Daybreak? No, what is it? With 2020, the one in when they're in
28 days. 28
28,
days.
not 28 days. That's the horror movie. What is that movie, Jeff? The one like where they're in Alaska and they have no
Oh
life.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know
They
what I'm talking
have
about,
no,
right?
yeah, they have
They have
no
no
life
life.
Oh,
for, yeah.
Yeah, and that it's that's kind of what you want from like Blade,
what was
but
40 days, 40 nights, or something like that?
40 days, 40 nights. That's
Yeah.
it. Like that's kind of what you like. That's that feel you want from Blade, right? Like you want that dark, gut tearing, gory film.
But I think we can still have that though.
I think you can have it. It's not, but I don't think it's gonna be any like
Not
blood.
because you can still
Really.
no, you can still have blood. You can still have blood. It's just the way you do the blood. You can't rip somebody's organs out, but you could still have blood. Blade. I mean, Dark Knight had plenty of blood.
Dark Knight was a hard. It was a hard.
They
It pushed
killed
the hard PG-13.
remember that guy who got
Yeah.
killed with a pencil there and
Yeah.
then.
But you cut
So
away from stuff like that too. Like
yeah,
they usually cut
exactly.
away from like super gory stuff. So to your point, Jeff, yeah, they can. I know one of the negatives is they're gonna most likely burst into flames or turn into dust, right?
But
And
that's
we
the
haven't
lore
really
though.
seen,
But that's the
yeah,
lore.
yeah. If because look, all we need, honestly, Jeff, if you think about it, all you really need from Blade is a dark fantasy movie. It has to be dark and it has to be fantasy because you obviously have vampires and stuff.
What about that underworld life? What about the drugs, this, that, so forth?
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I mean, if you look
that
into that like we
that
can
is
still
different.
have that. You just won't have the opening scene where she's giving fellatio to a guy. I mean, that won't be there.
Well, that's not the drugs though. Yeah, like
maybe that won't be there.
But I think
the famous blood rave scene. That was awesome.
Yeah, I think I think it's gonna be different. I think honestly, we can't go by the movies, but the underground world, what you're talking about, Jeff, I get that part. But I think look,
you can still be sexy because vampires are sexy.
Kevin Feige, the fact that you can have a dark fantasy world and you could depict drugs and stuff like that. Okay, first of all, like Black Widow is a hit. Like she's an assassin, right? We have a literal assassin in the world of Marvel, and she comes off exceptionally well. I'm with you. Like at first, I was worried when I first saw. I'm like, oh man, it's not gonna be rated R, but I'm like, a hard rated PG-13 movie is gonna work extremely well for Blade because he needs to be repopularized. Like he needs to be able to. They're trying to do it from a business perspective, and Jeff, you're not gonna like it. Obviously, is to try to get other people, like everybody else into the movie theaters to get it. And with Mahershala Ali, like he is a household name, but I don't think people buy him as Blade right now. Like I think that you buy his ability, like he can act. He's going to be able to act out all the dramatical parts of Blade, and they're going to have to take the John Wick approach. And I don't want you like this, the John Wick approach with the fighting scenes, or they could just go full on stuff, like full on, stunt double and just have somebody else doing the kicking and punching. So I think in order to I guess minimize some of the things that we're going to miss about Wesley Snipes, they have to erase Wesley Snipes. Like they have to erase him. He can't be in our brains. He can't like he's embedded in us, but it's old. Like that's what they're going for. Like this is definitely modern day, a fantasy story. That's what I think Blade is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't affect. It won't affect the story. The story will still be whatever it wants to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a rating is not going to affect the story. I mean, it would affect the story. My bad.
Yeah.
And I guess it could, in a sense, you could, but it wouldn't affect the way you deliver it, though. I mean, in a sense that in
a hard one, man.
In a general sense, because the overall plot doesn't have to revolve around gore.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. So Jeff, you ultimately what are you most afraid of? You most afraid of them not being able to, because it's Disney, them not being able to capture the underworld, like that drug world, that underworld, that type of depiction, or is it the blood? I know I kind of know
both too, yeah. And I just feel like there's so many vampire movies that like come out, and how are you going to really make it stand out? I think I don't know. I think it was rated R. Was Underworld vampire movie was rated R. But I understand the business side of it too. But at the same time, Blade was successful as a rated R movie, and then now it was living in a different time. Yeah, now we're in a different time. Years later, why can't you recreate a rated R movie with now modern technology that's going on with films and CGI and everything like that?
Yeah, and Underworld was rated R, Jeff.
Hey, there you go. And it's like, how many they did of those? Like yeah, come on.
But what can you not do in a PG-13 that you can't do in a rated R though? Because you could do drugs, you could do blood, you could still kill. But you could still curse. You could even still drop.
There's a limit.
You're limited though. Like there's a limit.